2 minors have come to their conclusion. 4 teams have progressed through to the major, 2 from Americas and 2 from CIS. Today, we are back with the Asian minors live from Twickenham Stadium here in London, and it is a beautiful day outside. Of course, we are here inside, though, so unfortunately, we can't really see the sun. But my name is Trace Saranthus, and of course, to my right will be my esteemed colleagues on the analytical desk. You might recognize us from Spain, but we're no longer in Spain. We are on the island of the United Kingdom here with Blair and Sponge.
We all got a bit of history with the UK, I guess. Trace, you did like a DNA test of some variety.
Yeah,
what are you, 62% British?
62%. 62%, yeah, something like that.
62% is pretty good, and Blair, he's had a bit to do with the UK over the years.
Yeah, good times. So we're kind of like coming back.
Coming back, just
yeah,
like
coming back home.
Or?
Kind of, not quite the same. Not quite the same. I mean, like we do have a long relationship, right? They were there for like 300 years. Fun times, and
it's not bad.
It's not bad. It wasn't bad. It's nice to be here for the very first time.
Is it your first time in the UK?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll go see Big Ben or something.
Chad has been feeling very sprightly ever since we landed here yesterday. It's almost like he's at home, but he's not really. Something about how they drive backwards on the roads here. When I say backwards, it's because, America's doing it proper, I think. Is that?
No. And they also gave me a British passport here, so I'm a double agent.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you drive backwards on the road?
Reverse?
You mean the wrong side?
Yeah, the wrong side. My bad.
All right.
I was just saying things are
That
a
would
little
be pretty
bit
cool,
backwards.
though. Like everyone driving backwards.
The Asian minor can sometimes be pretty backwards, though.
Now, you say minor. How about the socials for this minor itself? Using hashtag FACEIT minor. Go ahead and get involved on your favorite social media platform and let us know exactly what you're thinking, whether it be something positive about Blair, something negative about Chad. Who knows? Let's see what you've got for us.
I agree with that.
And you cool, Chad?
I would prefer something positive about me, positive about everybody, because it's a positive vibe kind of day.
Okay.
Is it, though?
Here's a positive vibe, Chad. I got a positive vibe for you. It's going to be the brackets. That's right. We're going to be jumping into the Asian minor here real shortly. But first, we should probably give a little bit of a rundown of how these teams will be working their way towards qualifying for the major.
Yeah, so today we're going to be doing all of Group A, and you can see the bracket unfolding here. There's a couple of fun facts I think we should probably get out of the way early. Boot just landing. They're going to be playing Renegades in the second game of the day, and they're going to be relatively tired as they're a last-minute kind of replacement. They had to re-qualify, obviously kicking things off with VG versus Scarz. And I believe they are the first Japanese team to ever attend a minor.
Yeah, they are, and they're also probably one of the better teams in East Asia right now, right? Like you have the Koreans, you have MVP PK, you have like Solo and Gang basically,
Sure.
right? But they're a pretty fun team to watch, to be honest. I think they're one of the few teams in Asia right now who kind of try and play the correct style of Counter-Strike. Unfortunately, they just don't have the firepower, and they just get completely crapped on by everyone else.
Well, let's not mess around with things here. The fact of the matter is this tournament as a whole has 2 teams who are the titans of the region and have been for so long. There's 3 things in life, Trace, that you can count on. Death, Texas, Renegades, and Tyler making it to the major.
I thought we were about to go down some sort of crazy path with Titan and Renegades again, Chad.
Oh, we could. Yeah, so one Cologne,
This is Chad's favorite topic always.
Yeah, and then it was Mirage. I'd take you there. We lost Pistol Round, but that doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter, not nearly as much as Group A. That is what we're going to be focusing on first. In fact, when I think about Group A, guys, is there anything that we really need to know right off the top before we dive into it too deep?
Renegade's going to go through, I guarantee. Let's be honest. Let's be very honest about it. But you know what? I think Boot, despite the fact that they placed last-minute qualifiers, I think they could potentially...
Dude.
They won't beat Renegades, but they might get out of the group at least.
If you're playing after getting off of an aeroplane and you're beating any of these teams, that means that Vici and Scarz have definitely really not lived up to any form of hype in any regard.
I don't think there's any hype.
You guys want to see some hype?
I want to see some hype.
I've got some hype for you.
All right.
In fact, let's take a look at the most hype thing I could possibly bring to you right now. We've got just a short little video put together for Group A.
The Asian minor starts off with Group A. VG.Flash Gaming's journey to the minor took them through the China qualifier, and now they're playing to make their country proud. SZ Absolute sees themselves as underdogs, but maybe the other teams underestimate their firepower. The big favourite in the group is Renegades. The question is if they will be able to handle the pressure. Boot Dreamscape are coming in on short notice, but maybe they can fight the odds and get through Group A to the playoffs.
And well on their way they could be. Of course, we won't know until that game does unfold. It's going to be an interesting one at that. I guess we could also talk about the other side of it where it's VG, FG, which is short for VG.
Vici Gaming,
Vici.
Flash Gaming,
Gaming.
Vici Gaming, Flash Gaming.
Who has the worst team name getting to this event? Is it like VG Gaming, VG.Flash Gaming, or is it probably Boot Dreamscape?
I think Unique Stars is also pretty bad. Actually, they're all pretty bad. Tainted Minds logo is terrible, but
it's a cool name, though.
I love it. I love that logo.
All right.
Zombie brains coming out.
This is another one of these things. We're going to have a lot of asterisks, a lot of caveats coming out for a lot of these squads, and VG Gaming is another one that needs one because they have their coach, Z8Z, I don't know if I'm even saying that right, standing in for Attacker. And can you tell everybody why Attacker is not playing?
So, all right, here's the thing, boys and girls. Look, it's not as if Asian CS is bad as it is right now. They're struggling together. We have Tyloo doing some things. We have Renegades. Are they really Australian now anymore?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't really matter. Here's the thing. Attacker went and decided to play a game of basketball a couple of days before flying down, and he unfortunately found out that it probably isn't, a game that really works with him. Not his forte. Really. He kind of snapped his foot or something, hurt his leg, and technically speaking, if I was him, I'd probably fly down and still play because you can play with your hands.
It's only your foot.
Yeah, I mean, technically, you don't need that to play this game. Technically speaking.
Captain Mo actually hurt his butt bone, his tailbone.
Tailbone, yeah. Well, so everybody's getting injured in that Chinese region. But I think with this matchup, VG Gaming, if they didn't have this situation with the coach having to stand in, there's two teams who are clear favorites, Tyloo and Renegades, and then it would have been Vici and Tainted Minds as the clear contenders, right? These guys actually had a decent shot at a potential upset if you look at this type of format. But now things kind of fall apart for Vici. Still looking at paper and based off the fact that Boot are flying in this kind of matchup, you would still lean to them as the second team coming out of this group, but it's more up in the air now, that's for sure.
Well, VG Gaming, we can take a look at some of those bright, shining young faces there right now on your screen. And Blair, as the resident expert, what should we be looking out for here?
Well, here's the thing, right? This is a team that has been touted as the Chinese super team. You have players like Fancy. He calls himself Summer now. I refuse to call him Summer. He will always remain Fancy to me. Then we have Freeman from Hong Kong. He's a very solid player. You got Zoking. You got Fancy. You got, had Attacker rather. So you have all these stars, the best aimers in China, and they don't have the issue that Tyloo has, where they have to have to work on their comms. It's English, Indonesian, Chinese. This is an all-Chinese team. They're a super team. They should, on paper, get through to the playoffs. But here's a problem. While they dominate all the Asian teams, all the lesser-known teams, they struggle massively against any semblance of structure. And Renegades have that in droves.
I think the thing that, for this squad is that Fancy has never really come to his true potential outside of China. When you watch this guy play those domestic tournaments, he is clearly the best player within that region, or in the top 3 for sure on a consistent basis. It's when we get to the bigger stages that he's unable to replicate that. And I'm sure throughout the career, you have to do a little bit of pieces of having an in-game lead from time to time, and there's been a lot of up and downs with this roster. But coming to this one, it has to just be kind of deflating to know you have to play with a stand-in in a chance where every time you come to one of these events, you have a chance to qualify for the major, and come in here just being hamstrung. It kind of sucks to start off the day.
Which is kind of unfortunate as well, right? For a change, it's not a visa issue. They could actually have flown in. But yeah, kind of unfortunate, and also the fact that Attacker is probably the best player when it comes to performing on LAN, international LANs. He's the guy who's played a lot. He's the guy who really steps up when he needs to.
Sure.
While Fancy might not have his moments. You have players like Love YY or Lovey, however you pronounce his name as well. He's an ex-cop, by the way. I don't know if you know this.
An ex-cop?
Yeah. IRL.
I'm an ex-con, so it all works out.
Or technically could still be. Let's talk about the other side of this equation. We do have a matchup here in Absolute Zero. Now, guys, basically, Blair, let's talk a little bit about this team, man, because I'm not super versed when it comes to the sort of Asian scene.
Hold up a second.
But, Chad, you grew up there, so.
In Japan?
Well, not in Japan, but you kind of grew up playing...
within the Asian region?
Yeah.
We learn Japanese in Australian schools.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's not bad.
I can count to 10, do it. And I can say, Watashi wa Chad des. My name is Chad.
Okay.
That's impressive.
I have been using the Spanish line all weekend, the soy un dinosaurio, grah. But it doesn't really get as much traction.
When you're using that with taxi drivers and they're just laughing at us, I'm not sure what the problem is. But I, to be completely honest, have been expecting Japanese Counter-Strike to come onto the scene for some time, because you look at that country in terms of their gamers. They got some of the best fighting players in the world. They definitely dabble in other games. But when it comes to FPS, when it comes to Counter-Strike, we never see a lot from them.
It's not just Counter-Strike, right? I think they're the one anomaly when it comes to the Asian, video gaming in general. They're a massive country when it comes to video game. It's pretty much mainstream for them. They're huge in the fighting game, like you just mentioned right now. But when it comes to Dota, LoL, any of these esports titles, so to speak, it's never quite really taken off in that place. And they do have a couple of pretty good players. Here's the thing. I just mentioned this earlier on. This is a team I really like watching, right? They're very hardworking. They actually have a structure. They approach the game from a more Western mentality, so to speak. just don't have the firepower, unfortunately.
But they beat Mongols to get here, right?
Mongols are complete shite right now.
Yeah, they are a little bit. It's not the same Mongols as it was with old mate Machine Gun and stuff.
You had a fun time, man.
Hey, man.
Taipei was fun.
Hey, man. We still qualified. Look, the point of the matter is that I actually am going to give these guys my dark horse for the tournament.
Really?
Yeah.
I would agree with you because they are, apart from Tainted Minds and Tyloo and Renegades, they're the only other team who has their actual full lineup going in here.
Yep.
And the way they're playing, if they just stick to their guns, play the structure right, they should be able to handle at least the majority of the other teams coming in with their stand-ins, with like 5 power with 3 stand-ins, for example. I mean, what are you going to do? It's pretty much a pug team, right?
But even though I think there's something along the sentiment is like, how can the other team know what we're going to do if we don't know what we're going to do, right?
That's the story of our lives.
Just get brained on.
True.
Yeah.
But I think, in this matchup right here, once again, because of the stand-in factor, because the team from Japan, the old mate Scarz, they've actually got their full roster. That is the step in the right direction for me to kicking this tournament off correctly for them. Now, when they go up against Renegades in the upper bracket match, I'm not giving them any hope, but I'm saying in this first environment, this is the step forward to see if they are legit and if they can go again. Because like we go, the Asian region. But these guys, to play against each other, there's still big ping differentials. There's still like a lot of different bits and pieces. So the true test is when we come to LAN and we get to play in environments like this. And VG have the pedigree in terms of the experience and the players having to play for a longer period of time at this level. So there's a lot of factors that are in play other than just being the head-to-head.
Here's a factor you can think of, the map veto. It's going to come down to a best of one here in this opening match of the Asian Minor, live from Twickenham. Did I say it right? Twickenham?
Twickenham. I think that's...
Look, it all works for me, mate. I think it's either going to be Mirage or Cache.
Twickenham. There we
Just
go.
took the words right out of my mouth.
Well, it has to be,
It
right?
has
It's
to be.
Asian Counter-Strike, so we don't really play a lot of maps in this region.
And that's so annoying, right? Like, these guys, they play maps like Mirage and Cache, and it's basically a deathmatch, a team deathmatch most of the time.
Sure.
And then they face off against the likes of, I wouldn't say a FaZe, like that's way high up, but he face off against any Tier 2 EU team, and not only do they know these maps better than you do, but they can even aim better than you guys. So, pretty standard bans. Train, Nuke, no one really plays Nuke in Asia, barely anyone. Trains never touch as well, so there we go. Overpass ban coming out. I think Inferno is going to be taken out as well. And it's going to come down between map, like we mentioned.
It just makes more sense as well with the stand-in factor for Vici. It means they can play more of a team-based trading game of Counter-Strike, whereas the maps that we've seen go out so far, Train, Nuke, Overpass, and Inferno, in that order are all very strategic, right? You need a lot of strategies, you need your defaults, you need your moves from there. When you Cache going out early, so we're going to see it between Old Mate Dust 2 and Mirage. Well, both are still maps that are relatively scrimmy.
I think here's the thing with Vici, right? Like, well, yeah, it's gonna be Mirage. Here's the thing with Vici Gaming, right? Even though they're playing with a stand-in, let's be honest, they just go in there. It's more like attacker kill.
Yeah.
Or attacker's not there. Sorry, fancy go kill. That's pretty much what they're gonna be doing here. It's gonna be a clash of playstyles.
Sure.
And here's the thing, I feel Vici Gaming just have too much firepower for SC to handle.
Okay.
To be very honest, but SC Absolute, if they've done their homework, they're the one team coming in here properly, full-fledged, entire lineup. They should have done their homework. They qualified a while back. I think it's been like a month and a half or so. They need to at least put up some numbers here. I'm going to be disappointed if they get completely
blown out of the
crapped on.
water. Yeah, I definitely can see the fact that
That's a nice
the
watermelon.
firepower just coming into play here across the board. But I've played against these Chinese teams before, and some of the things that I've noticed playing against them is even without strategy, even if they do just roll in as a pack, here's the thing. I remember playing a Cache game. I don't remember. I think it was against Tyloo, and we would have stacking the B bomb site on Cache, and we knew that they were coming. We just knew because we had information across the map, and they would still just beat us. And I don't know if we were beating ourselves mentally or I was having the mental breakdown as part of my career then. Probably was happening at the same time. All the stars collided in that part of my career. But it was just so difficult to deal with, right? We didn't know how to stop them because they would just come in. And you look at them and you think they have high sensitivity. But Zoking's sensitivity is tiny.
It's very low.
That's why he's got massive forearms. That's the new the new workout. Yeah, this guy has massive swipes. You should see it.
You should actually see that. Like when we had the cameras on, the player cams, just watch him play. It's
one
pretty.
of those, you're just kind of whipping
I'm kind of scared he might just rip his arm off his socket. It's that insane.
It's like some Karate Kid stuff, like Mr. Miyagi with the wife washing the windows. He's doing that with the mouse for the car.
Well, how about this, Chad? How about we take a look at some numbers?
I like numbers.
I mean, we're not nearly as strong as we'd like to be. I know that perhaps we haven't been going to the gym like we said we were going to do. We thought about going to the gym, which is about half of the battle itself. Now, if we take a look at the numbers here, you see on your screen, this is Vici's breakdown in terms of how these maps have looked for them over the past 3 months. And, well, What do we got, boys?
Here's the thing, right? Like, I love numbers, I love stats chat.
Sure.
Let's be honest about it. But when it comes to Asian Counter-Strike in particular, let's be honest, like 80% of these stats come from the online games,
Skewed,
right?
yeah.
And then the online games, it gets even more skewed because the competition they face off against are, to be very blunt, pretty crap. Let's be honest, right?
Sure.
But and also the LAN. Like, if you look at like the LAN performances, most of these guys, you see VG qualify for some international LANs once in a while. You know, they might once in a while go to a Star Ladder or a DreamHack. They barely win a single map there. So how much can you really glean from this is my
So
honest
just for
question.
people at home, the number outside of the bracket is the LAN percentage, and inside of the bracket is how they've been performing online.
Right. Yeah.
Now, also to keep in mind here, this doesn't have how many games have been played. So let's just say they've only played a handful of maps on each of these, and then it doesn't really stick out. Or, once again, as you're saying, the level of opponent also changes the way that these numbers speak. But what it does tell us is where they like to lean, you know, where their more favorite picks are, and necessarily where they're getting the W's. In this regard, like we've mentioned, the more mainstream, the more easy, more scrimmy maps like Mirage and Caches we're seeing towards the top, and that's a very similar scene here for the Japanese squad. You know, they've got Caches their highest, and Mirage, when I was having a look last night, was also towards the top of their played and win percentage map pool.
Inferno and Train, on the other hand.
Yikes. Yeah, they just don't like playing those maps. I don't think they've ever played Nuke, I think once or something. But here's the thing, right? If you look at what surprises me is the fact that Duster's been in the map roster for a while now, right?
Sure.
And knowing Asian C, as one would assume that they would like to pick up that map. It's a map that really, you know, favors taking duels. You have all these crazy oppers, like
Easy to
X-Grid and all
understand.
this- Yeah, and you would kind of expect to see that, but no one's really picked it up yet. It's still Mirage and Cache.
I think, you know, the problems that arise there is multiple teams have to lean towards the map, because I was thinking about this myself. If only one team goes, we're going to play Dust 2, but everyone else is just going to ban Dust 2.
But here's the
You're
problem.
wasting your time.
Everyone's banning Nuke.
How many maps can you ban? Best of ones, you can ban 6.
Man, all the way down to the very bottom
Numero
of the
uno.
board. Yes, the only one map remaining, we're going to be going to Mirage, will be the map itself. But, you know, first, even before we even get in there, we could probably start to talk a bit about how we think this one might unfold.
I think VG is just going to run away with this. I'll be very blunt about it. Scarz, the problem has been always their nerves, right? They have the structure in play. The first few rounds, they're going to take it slow. They're going to be like, all right, we have this. Doesn't matter where they start on T side or CD side. They're going to go for some clean executes. I like that. I appreciate that. They actually try to execute stuff. They go for a slow-paced, pick-based style where they, you know, trying to work things out, work the map and whatnot. But then VG is just going to be like just running in, just taking headshots. Zokin's going to charge and get a 3K, 4K. And what happens at Scarz is I've seen this happen a lot of times whenever they play in these LAN events. They start getting rattled a little bit.
It's very easy to do, though, when someone treats you in that regard, right? Disrespectful Counter-Strike if you think you're the better players and you think you're the more experienced squad, and you're going up a very structured team like you're painting the picture of here. If one strat goes the wrong way, or if somebody, you know, dies early in a strategy, or someone forgets to buy a smoke, then everything can unravel, and you need to learn on the fly. So I think that for this unit, if they want to come out, maybe they should try a different approach early and then taper off towards a strategy later. If they're going to go with what you're saying, it's going to be cookie cutter. Might be a really, really rough start for these guys from Japan.
It should be. So yeah, I would love to see. I would honestly love to see them take this map because, you know, this is an opportunity. You're playing against a team who are one of the best in the region. They have a stand-in in place. You need to kind of take this map. But yeah, I hope to see something different. I haven't seen them in the past month or so because but they do practice a lot. They're the one team I know for a fact that in the Asian region, whenever other teams are looking for scrims, they're a team who keeps on scrimming every single map all the time. So one would expect to see something a little bit different compared to the past.
But even within that region, I mean, obviously there's sort of a line that you have to draw when it comes to staying within the current metas that maybe your European or North American teams are facing, and I think that's always been kind of like the shortfall of the Asian scene.
Well, historically, though, I think if you look at Asian Counter-Strike, they always did better on home soil. When they were playing against the European or North American teams. Like you could think about the Tylus or the WNVs back in the day.
And the Koreans as well.
The Estros, the We Made Foxes. But the thing that they did different was because they could only practice within such a small chamber of teams, and a lot of the time only themselves, because the ping wasn't, we're talking a decade ago now, maybe even more so. The issues that would arise was they would just have to come up with their own form of meta. And that was the most exciting factor because it was a blip on the radar when they went to tournaments and they could really just show a new face. The difference now with Counter-Strike is it's constantly evolving. We would have very long periods of time of strategical Counter-Strike, very long periods of time of more trade-based fundamental CS, and now it's evolved to we have multiple versions of CS all playing out at once in the same server, Mr. Trey Stunner Saranthus.
Thank you very much, Chad Sponge Burchill. Now, one thing we're going to do before we kick it over, and I'm going to have to ask you guys to put your money where your mouth is. I did ask you to kind of build it up, say who you thought was going to win this, but ultimately we're going to start with you, Chad. Where do you see this one falling officially? Put your money where your mouth is.
My dollary dues, my
yes,
yeah, my kangaroo money. Look, I really would like to see the Japanese squad Scarz come out and put up a good showing. And like I said, I think they could be the dark horse. I hope that they have the right mentality coming into this one. And Vici with the stand-in, still on paper, the more firepower, probably the better squad. But I'm going to lean towards Scarz and put some faith behind them and see how far they can go.
Blair?
You're going to be sensible. Be sensible. I'm being a moron.
Yeah. Look, listen, man. I've been casting Asian Sin for 4 years. I have no faith remaining anymore. Vigi's going to take this. They're going to take it clean and easy. Scarz
Clean
won't.
and easy.
They're not going to get to double digits.
Oh, my poor heart.
Oof. That is not something you want to hear this early in the morning about any team, but unfortunately that is just the way it is. Now, fortunately enough, we do have a commentary duo, a legendary one at that, sitting idly by, I should say, ready to get us into this first best of one of the Asian Minor. It's going to be DDK, and it's going to be God Bardoff. Take it away, guys.
Cheers. Oh my god. We had our hopes. We were like sponge, and then we all got crushed at once by Player, I think.
I like it. He's already jaded. Like jaded when
Yeah,
he's got off the airplane. But maybe he will be a new man once he leaves. Let's see. It's down to this Japanese team. Oh my God, Bars is. I can just see we've got game feed here, right? And Bars is. His profile picture is absolutely amazing. So you will see that very shortly. Indeed, the knife is taking place at the moment. I'm looking forward to this Japanese Counter-Strike, certainly a first for me.
Yeah. It's been interesting because everyone has always looked to the Asian regions, especially before we had a lot more international tournaments. In the last few years, we are starting to see Asian teams, and you'd always see glimpses, here or there. Someone would discover one of the Asian players, like maybe it's a Japanese player or Chinese player, it's like made a frag movie or something, and they're kind of renowned for having like really sick mechanics and stuff, and it's like really fun to watch their style, and they're very clinical. But it's just it's just the strategy and tactics where we tend to see the fall behind. So I want to see clean mechanics, but
Are you familiar with Japanese gamers from any game?
Absolutely from fighting games, yeah.
Apart from fighting games?
No.
Oh, okay. Because I was wondering, I'm trying to think beyond fighting games, but I don't recall any. I mean, you watch more esports than I do in terms of different games and genres. So I don't know if there's like some God Quake player or something that.
There were a couple. One was Chinese Russian, and one was just straight Chinese. His name.
That's not Japanese, is it? That's Chinese.
Rocket Boy.
I'm talking about Japanese, bro.
Japanese.
That's a different country, China. There's a sea between them.
No, I don't think Japan ever had really any great Quake players.
Japanese.
But let's run to the game. We can get back into that. I have to figure out the origin of. There's a guy called Executor, but we'll go back into that. I don't know which region he was from, but Lovey will already be spotting the intended destination of Scarz, and after some trades here, this looks like it could be pretty open for the retake for VG. It's never quite simple. Like how they're holding their grounds. They're actually looking pretty strong here. Freeman getting through the door as well, and Showking making his way up short, so a couple headshots away from winning this one, but it's starting to look tougher and tougher. Freeman, I think he's screwed James. Look at him. He's not. This is not a good time, is it?
I like this. You can see Scarz trying to. I mean, that's one thing that's very telling of the Japanese approach will be discipline. So I'm looking forward to seeing how things work out in that regard. Like they make sure that they try to get at least a double peak in that last situation. It would be really cool if this team qualified for the major, because they have a guy called Poem on their team. You can do so much in a hype moment with a guy called Poem, right? So let's see how this continues. We have the force buy from Vichy, 2 Desert Eagles, and again this will be interesting what the approach is here from Scarz. A smoke on the end of the balcony that asks some questions of the CTs. Although the window is still exposed, so they know players aren't there. So generally, you may prefer a Molotov, because putting a smoke down, they could boost into that smoke and have somebody in the corner. But let's see what the end game is here for Scarz.
Yeah, Permo 8 makes me think of so one of the.
It's just Poem. I think that's just his FACEIT name.
Oh,
Poem
okay. That's a shame because I was going to say that. And there's a famous Quake player who's now sort of the esports coordinator for Quake Champions, and he was one of the most famous North American players ever, and his name was 04, and he was named 04 after like one of the tracks he really liked on like a Tool or a Nine Inch Nails album or something, which I thought was kind of cool, and that's what it reminded me of. But now that you said the 08, it's not really a thing. I guess that's that theory is blown.
Time pressure, 40 seconds, although Scarz are in good position to split the B bomb site, as you can see. Nobody picking short for the time being. Laz expecting that. You see Lovey's in the boost position on default, which could be a problem. They're slowly creeping in. Where are the mollies? Where are the flashbangs, boys? 2 kills for Fancy, and then Lovey trying to do what he can. Now we're in a 1 versus 2, and Take J has 15 seconds to plant this bomb. Now Vichy committing. That's a great first shot. He gets tagged by Freeman. He knows where Freeman is, and he will hold it down for his team. That was scary though. But I mean, they had good positioning to split the B bomb site. But that could have gone worse for them. It took a while to deal with that player in the bench position, so that's an early scare. But we'll see how the other anti-force buys and anti-ecos go. Not often you... one thing when we talk about Asian Counter-Strike is that in our experience, when we commentated the Asian minor in Malaysia a while back, we saw a lot of what I would say is like local Counter-Strike, where you're almost playing to your own meta in your local region because of lack of exposure to the international one, which can cause problems. Or you can see a lot of issues that exist within that vacuum that you wouldn't normally see. So it'll be curious to see if that will be a thing this week.
Yeah, it's something that's the only way to speed it up is either to just move regions or to have people come over and to teach about the proper theory of Counter-Strike, because that's ultimately what was like why meta develops as it does. Because if everyone was playing, like if everyone understood like the most optimal things in Counter-Strike, and to understand that you have to understand the theory very well, then and how it works out in practice, then everyone would be playing a somewhat similar meta in that sense. It would be there would be variance, of course, but much less than we see. And it's a very slow process if you don't have anybody except your own region to play with, and no one who's super experienced, or maybe you don't have the English literacy, because obviously all the educational content is mostly in English, so, and all the casts and so on. So definitely much tougher.
Right then, this is the look at that profile picture, man. That is he's happy to be here, baby. All right then, this is a buy round for both sides, so let's see what Scarz have to offer to kick things off. We've got Lovey coming in for some short supports. Now, pass top mid with the Mac 10. You might expect him to be making his way to the underpass to get close to connector, but we'll see what they choose to do. The CT smoke down will delay their push into connector. Now, if this was broken, if you're going to have somebody in the ladder room, I think it's good to have your mid player pop this when they come to the window. But it depends. If they're going for a fast peek, then they can't really do that. Because if he goes through that window, obviously he can see players moving into connector position. So there's Bar's close range. He will take the L, and Poem will get the trade and an upgrade.
Looking pretty good. Only 2 flashbangs to try to defend against this push, but if Zed can do anything about it and just stay alive long enough, then it should be pretty good here, as they do manage to make their way in time. But Pat's Fancy needed more there. Shaking will be coming up short, and he is expected. And there is the welcoming party from Lasvel.
That is a huge 3K from Crow. Vichy managed to get a number of 1v1s on the B bomb site. You saw there was one player who was just holding the short position, so Crow had much to do here. He almost single-handedly won the round for his team because it did look like it was collapsing. That's a massive 3K for his team. So Scarz, again, they got into good positions to go for a B split. You don't see that so often, B splits, really, in such a simple fashion. They can be effective, but I mean, Molotovs can always help, but you need to get into a safe angle to throw them in the first place, which isn't the easiest thing, especially coming in from the short position. And now we see an example of why the molly is good for the end of the balcony as opposed to the smoke grenade. But there's one for the van at the very least. Oh, angles and frags. More players are now in a situation. There's a minute 20 on the clock, right? So a lot of people at home would be running into the bomb site with the bomb in their hand to plant the bomb. Clear the bomb site first. Make sure everything's safe. Plenty of time to plant the bomb. And everything is secure. Marvelous.
Yeah, looks pretty good right now. Pretty clean anti-eco, like how smooth that was. It's just a very clear approach. And quick push for the apartment is always good. And I mentioned Executor before, but I just double-checked, and he was of, I mean, he was a Norwegian citizen, but of South Korean descent. So I missed the mark there. I don't know that there were any prominent Japanese players. I'm sure maybe Sponge would know. Like the old 1.6 days.
That's interesting. 3 kills at the end of the round. I think that could be optimized. When in a round such as that, I don't know that you can expect your opponent to have much more than pistols. So, and if they have Kevlar, maybe you cost them $1,000, but they probably don't. So you're probably costing them $300 to $500. And but they just gave them almost $3,000 instead with the AK on Freeman. And I think in a round such as that, you have to think about your exit strategy. When there's little to no value in eliminating the final players, just make sure you have an idea of where you want to exit and exit together.
So it's kind of cool. We see like a fast B push when it's a buy versus buy, trying to sort of shock and awe VG Gaming here, but it's not being too successful. Maybe it can be saved still though. Nice headshot coming in from Lasvel. Crow will start to encircle some of these CTs, so they've actually put it into 1v2 with over a minute on the clock. If Crow can somehow get onto that bomb, then maybe there is a chance here. Oh, that's a very nice find. That is Freeman down. Fancy taking some Molotov damage as well. Crow just going for the peaks. I guess he felt as though maybe he had to, but perhaps there was another way there. Either way, it will be a very close round, and there's more than enough money for Scarz. You can't really say the same here for VG Gaming, so perhaps they did enough at the end of the round there.
Yeah, I wonder if he was maybe expecting a guy to jump out the window, expecting him to plant or something, but either way, I think from what we've seen so far, it is very early, but Crow is looking like the most important player for the team on the T side so far. So let's keep eyes on him. He's lurking towards B at present. 4 players towards the A site, and one would expect them to explode with a flashbang. So it seems Crow's trying to sell a fake towards the B bomb site. I think they're relying on him to try and get an entry, but he's been smoked off for the time being, and now the waterfall is here. But VG have been static for the most part. There's a Molotov to force Freeman from his position, but he will die for the cause, doing good damage to Bars as well. Now we have a 2 versus 4, and at this point Laz could have an option to exit, could have had an option to exit the A sites, but I think Crow is trying to cut off connectors rather than rotating elsewhere. But Fancy has a very good angle, and Crow will crouch right into it.
Yeah, that's a tough one. They're going to have to think about this AWP on short in some of the future rounds, and just sort of doing the dry challenges makes it a little bit too easy for Fancy in this occasion. And that was definitely a big opportunity for Scarz now. Perhaps flushed down the toilet. I don't think they did too much damage there, just 1 kill. And yeah, Fancy could just sort of sit here, and there was nothing really, no grenades to really make his life all that difficult. So that will be 2 rounds for VG, back to back. And we'll get all the money spent here by Scarz, which I think is cool. And looks like they want to go for another B push. Maybe in Japan it's the A with, instead of A with smokes, it's B with smokes. Maybe that's where you should go, James.
There's a flashbang over the roof, but not committing behind it just yet. So perhaps this will invite the CTs to rotate elsewhere now. I think it's always important to bounce one off the oh, that's interesting. To bounce one off the window into the site as well. Now they're close, they can burst. Because if someone's standing like in this position here, it comes out the window, they get flashed either way. Ooh, second one will be good. That's a good entry. Can they get the second frag though? There's already a CT in that short position. Fancy good for one, and that might be safe territory. Freeman and Shoking in the market position. They need an early frag here. They need to be given something to convince them to go for this. Otherwise, let's see, will they commit to this? There's Freeman dead, and Shoking now surely be trying to slowly escape. Look at that aim. That's crazy. He just goes from one place to another like absolutely perfectly. Wish I could say the same. Well then, let's see how much money the CTs are left with. Shoking's got 3k, Lovely's got 3k, Fancy 2500, so not ideal situation. If Scarz can keep Vichy's poor on their CT side, then I mean maybe we have an 11-4 half here.
Yeah, it's quite the possibility. That run was strange because I think VG's just sort of, they seemed a little bit underprepared for the push incoming, and then they had a bait set up, but then, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it's something that I think we'd have to look at in a replay to really see whether or not they just got unfortunate or not, but it's a great opportunity for Scarz. PT50 and smoke on Z8Z. That's not too fun. There's a good opening onto Freeman, and I think Shoking's being spotted. And this is not a good look so far. Just taking the aim battles and being quite confident with the AKs. VG will be more or less wiped out. And there's not too much for them to really accomplish now in continuing to push this. This will be very difficult for them to do much. That said, they are going to be on an eco next round one way or another now. So trying to get some damage in. Lovey going to flash himself through. Very bold against 4 players. Still just dancing around the triple. And is he actually going to escape as well? That is quite something. He will actually get out of there without taking any damage. I don't understand. Just pushed aside against 4.
I feel like if they were going to buy in this round, they probably could have saved more weapons in the previous rounds and been in a better situation. Laz is on the flank of Z8Z. Hello.
Goodbye.
Mr. Yoshida. There's a knife to be had there. I wonder if I wonder how much knifing we'll see from a Japanese side. If I remember correctly, we have a mutual friend who was in Japan for a while, and he said like in some deathmatch servers, I think if I remember correctly, it's kind of BM to use an AWP on some deathmatch servers. If you might not recall.
I'm trying to think of who you're talking about.
I'll jog your memory. I think it was Threat, wasn't it?
Maybe. Oh, he did go to Japan for like a couple months, I think.
Yeah, I think he said it was. Yeah, it was the DM servers there were different to what you might find elsewhere. But I mean, you get people who whine when you use an AWP in a deathmatch server. But it's like, if you want to get good at fast AWPing, you go to a deathmatch server. So if you're on a DM server and you whine about the guns people choose, then maybe you should play Solitaire and just disconnect from Steam entirely. That's my recommendation.
Well, this is an interesting start, though. We haven't really seen defaults or anything like that from Scarz so far. They just run into B or A, and that's how they found success at this point. And depending on the pacing at which they do that, there's a lot of opportunities to be aggressive on VG's side of things. So far, they've been very passive. So far, we've not really seen anything in mid. So mid presents itself as a somewhat safe opportunity to take map control for VG, as well as going for stuff like underpass pushes and palace pushes would be really useful as well early in the rounds. Because if the pace is slow and Scarz, then do like a delayed A set piece, having a guy in palace is really strong. And VG will be buying in this round. They don't have the best utility ever, but they do have all rifles. And already they'll lose someone, I think, in the underpass. And that will spot the bulk of Scarz, and they're still going to keep pushing into B. There is already a rotation coming in as well for the CTs.
Molotov is going to deter Scarz. They are backing off. They don't have any map control, but that's not going to be a giant problem for them, in their opinion. They have a minute 20 on the clock here, so they can have a look-see. But Laz is moving through T-spawn. Okay, he's just having a look towards T-spawn of the bomb. I was thinking if he's going to commit on his own, then that would be interesting. So seems that Scarz will create space, and the longer they take here, normally it would spread the CTs fairly evenly between sites. Now, so they said they're starting to move through the B. Absolutely manages to pick off Poem. So now Laz has a 1v1, which he has to win, but he's jumping on the stairs. He will win the 1v1. They don't really have position to commit anywhere else just yet, but he's running away on the def cam at the very least. In the meantime, TakeJ has gone into the short position. But now where does Laz go? Because Lovey is in B apps, and Laz is there alone. So if that duel is won by Lovey, then the round may be over, depending on how much time is left.
Ooh. Yeah, I think you're right. It's got to be done at this point. Sure. Oh, maybe not. I mean, he's alone. Oh, this is very scary, isn't it? He's just going deep. Perhaps in a direction you wouldn't expect. He's just going to meet the push. They're going to jump through. The spray is in, and it's good. All three players very well handled by Lovey there to just push close to the smoke and get the triple as they jump through it. That's not going to happen every single time. And
I think that was a panic push. I mean, it was good spray by him, but
they had time, right, to wait the smoke out.
I mean, how many seconds are left on this smoke? I feel like 5, 6, 7 seconds. But I think their issue is that if he's run away, then they might not have time to collect the bomb and plant it.
Yeah, I think they would have. It was 14 seconds when they jumped through, so the bomb was quite a bit further on.
Yeah, so that is that's a crappy way to lose a round, but they took a gamble and it didn't pay off.
Ooh, hello, scouts. Doesn't find any heads just yet. Oh, great. Oh, maybe not as great of a flash as I thought. Only one player unblind. Unblind, not blinded. And that will be the end of Freeman and the opportunity. And once again, we're just seeing a very similar round. Just walk into one side or the other. There's been zero mid presence the entire game so far. Which is...
Well, no, they've had two splits of the B bomb site. One was on anti-eco and one was on the buy rounds. But there isn't your usual presence.
I suppose, yeah, what I mean is like taking mid control as like part of a default, I guess, as opposed to sort of just using it to just run up straight away.
Oh yeah, there hasn't really been.
It's just like there's not been
like
emphasis on map control. It's just like go in here or go in there.
Just execute, yeah.
Let's go over there. Let's go in here.
VG back on the pistols again. So I think we're on track for an 11-4 score.
Oh, is this a fake? Are they going to try to do a fake or no? Okay. Oh, I see what. So they were just trying to catch any pushes from the pistols. So they've changed their approach. They've gone into anti-eco, anti-force buy mode now.
Looks like they're going for the short B split again.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving into the top mid position. There's a smoke. I don't know who threw that smoke in connector, because it's on the lower end of connector, which benefits the CTs. Laz looks like he's lining up to use smoke for connector for the other side, although he's crouching, and normally I would do this standing up, so I'm not sure if it's the same one, but we'll soon find out. Yeah, it is. Yeah, there we go. So he crouches to line it up, then stands, which is fair enough because you can wallbang players. Like if you know your angles, these are obviously extremely common positions. If you're in a window with like a deagle or an AWP, you could shoot somebody in the head from the standing position, so that's cool. But so here it is again. But they're giving some sound cues away now. And, oh boy, no one's actually watching the short position. They're just more concerned with everything else. So once more, there are problems here for Scarz, and now Laz is in a 1 versus 3. And Lovey's giving in the 1 versus 1. Why? I guess he's trying to trade with that spray. He is going to run out of bullets, so fair enough.
Oh my goodness, pulling out the Molotov there.
Yeah, I think they're being too meticulous. When you give sound cues away like that in the short position, I think you need to get on with things.
Yeah, it's like it is just like a time split, so Yeah. Either way.
Well, I think that example shows that there are benefits to have from a default. For example, if you have 3 people mid and you're throwing, if you're flashing somebody into that ladder room position and so on and so forth. So again, what's cool about things like this is that you see plenty of easy fixes for teams. So there's much room for them to grow. Now we have Ava Smokes on the side, although they're not committing behind these. They have 1 smoke left and 4 Molotovs. So once these go and they move into the A site, like the CTs are playing retake, so how is the bomb going to get planted? Now there's over a minute on the clock, so that's not an urgent issue at present. But VG still have 4 people committed to the A bomb site. Shoking just watching the short position. Crow is top mid. He's got a flash and a grenade, and he hasn't really shown much presence there. So now Scarz are starting to creep in, and 2 of the CTs did start to rotate away from that CT position. Poem is being picked off, and still we've got 3 Scarz players and 2 choke points on A.
Indeed, then here comes the backstab from Crow. That's going to be good for a frag. The CTs are starting to have issues. Okay, Lovey's got a Molotov. That could go very far if he knows how to place it on the bomb sites. Obviously, this position is Molotovable. But won't be the case. There's a rotation from B, taken down. Now there goes the push from Freeman. No one seemingly watching CT.
Oh wow, look at this rotation from the T's. They're going 3-man mid. Okay, Bars is like, okay, this is too far away. The smoke is down, so they better have their angles. The Molotov as well. Although Lads is on the short position. Nice headshot from him.
Oh. This is working out really well. He can try to go for it now if he wants.
Oh god, that's all over the shop. But Freeman's still going for the frag. He hasn't got a defuse kit.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, there was one in connector.
That was a very strange round. I think it was also particularly strange for me because the fake was not something that really helped Scarz in the position that their opponents were in. The fake.
Well, they had risk. They had to plant the bomb with Crow in connector, keeping an eye on the short position. And if that guy picks off the bomb planter, they have less players, no cover to plant the bomb. So they need to look at that execute, and if they're going to offer some kind of fake like that, they have to have some way to cover wherever they want to plant the bomb. Be it a smoke in connector, jungle, or take control of CT with a flashbang push. Although with 4 people there, you can't really do that anyway. The push is coming into the B bomb site, and Poem has jumped in on his own. The rest of the team are late, and Fancy has time to pick up the AK, get another pick off. Laz is doing 2 jobs at once, and I think at this point he should just jump out of the apartments. Because if he misses, yeah, good. I think that's a good decision. They don't know where the other 2 players are. So, there we go. Back he comes, and I think they will stabilize now. Again, Crow being an important player for the team. 16 kills for Crow in that half, and I can't stress how crucial he was to, like, the multi-frags round he had were very crucial to Scarz. But there it is. The 11-4, they kept Vici poor. As much as there is improvement to be done, they've got Vici on the back foot. And who knows what we can expect from Scarz. Judging by the executes we saw and the things that were lacking on the T side, they may have problems on the CT side dealing with things, making the mid-round decisions. But first, Vici needs to win the pistol.
Yeah, there's another point I want to make about the fake, but as you say, got the pistol coming first. It's just an A push, A retake set up here from Scarz, so they're going to allow the bomb to go down, see if they can get any picks in the meantime whilst they wait for everybody to arrive on rotation. Lasvel giving up this position maybe in a spot he could have potentially wanted to fight for, to be honest, because now being locked out of the vent forces everyone to come through CT, and also the T's can offer timely backstabs as well. So we'll see how this dynamic ends up working out for Shoking. He might get actually dropped in on through mid, but Lovely will spot this, and he may just get both kills. He will, and they've got 3 players in mid again. They're loving the short-facing plants, and this has worked out very well for VG. But I was just going to make the point that with the fake again, one of the strengths of the fake is, I think, against AWPs, generally speaking, because you want to sort of move them around positionally and just make it really hard to understand like where to be. But when they're against rifles, the fake I don't think really does as much when the CTs don't have much utility, because I mean they can just you're not doing as much damage if you force them on rotations, and on the A site as well, they're always going to wait for you to plant anyway. So not too much gained. But for VG, this is I'm really curious how Scarz' CT side will look, and I'm also very curious how VG's T side will look strategically, because Scarz strategically, they were more or less just, we're going to go into A, we're going to go into B, don't care too much about map control or hiding information. That's a pretty cool push. 3 players spotted, but that will also mean that the bomb can understand that the B bomb site is fairly safe, and they will charge in there. Although one AK has been put on Crow, and as James said, he's been pretty dangerous so far. That's a nice headshot. Maybe they can do more here as they push forwards.
Laz keeping control of market. 3 players from the short position. This will be interesting. Freeman is in position. And let's see how this. Well, he's dead. Okay, Crow, of course. 3 on 2 now for Scarz, and they've got to keep this moving quickly because they don't have any defuse kits. Poem is very low, and now Crow, he's not really in a position to save. Trying to hide in plain sight for the time being. Ideally, he can escape to the market, or he will try to take these players down with him. Dancing around now. So it seems oh, look at this aim, dude, from Crow. That is so sick. Oh, does he escape? He does as well. They all die. Crow's a beast, man. I'm a fan.
He's doing a good job so far. And he's rewarded. Gets to keep that AK. Always feels good on the CT side.
I have to say, though, the name Crow reminds me of the infamous Crow with the Linders from YouTube. It would be cool if the Linders had their own show. Like, they all came together and just had a daily Linda show with different Linda. Hashtag Linda. Right then, 11-6 for Scarz, and ooh, they've gone for a force buy. This is like a role reversal, because normally this would be something that the teams would do based on the damage done, but Scarz are taking a different approach. And well, let's see, 3 of them in market, 3 versus 4. Okay, it's safe territory now, and they have ruined their economy here. But I mean, they've taken a gamble with the round lead that they have. Let's see, still going for it. And now Bas will be forced to move away. So Scarz definitely with their own approach.
I do wonder with Scarz on their T side, again, they were sort of very much, we're going to go here, we're going to go there. And VG, and they didn't really emphasize map control. And VG, they just stayed passive the whole time on their CT side. And there was definitely, like, if you know how your opponent's playing, the clear thing is that Scarz are not taking map control. So that's an option then for you as the CTs to be like, okay, then that means that there's lots of spots on the map that we can probably take. That's going to give us information. It's going to give us advantages for fights. And I wonder if there will be adaptation from Scarz if VG play a similar way. Because VG on their CT side didn't really adapt. They just sort of just play passively.
We haven't seen a full buy round here from Scarz, but I think that they are a significant underdog even in this position, because I think the first half tells us enough that I don't know who their usual opponents are on like a weekly, monthly basis. But I feel like they will be less equipped. I think the less experience you have, the harder it is going to be to react to something in a correct manner. So I'm expecting a struggle on the CT side, but their loss bonus will be high, at the very least. Only 4 rounds to be won by any CT side so far, but this is of course early into the second half. So very curious to see what the CTs will offer us. They've all got plenty of money now, 5,500 average. So let's see what they will do. Laz with the AWP to kick things off. Will it be 2? Or will it be 1? Very curious to see what Crow can do if he picks up an AK. So Scarz currently, they recently 2-0'd MVP. Scarz Absolute is the full name. So they've been playing some South Korean teams and playing some other countries as well. So let's see. VG charging into the A site, but Bart is ready. Doesn't need to fight to the death here. They've got big advantages, as you can see. He's just showing presence and peeking, seeing what's going on. Now we'll fall back with the smoke grenade, and the Scarz can play retake for the rest of it. Was Poem's gun poking out there?
I don't know.
I have to assume that it was.
Yeah, something like that, right? And it's all of a sudden a 2 versus 3 or 2 versus 2 make it. Very winnable spot, and we can go back to this in a moment, some of the choices, but oh, okay.
Hello. Okay. All right then.
I was going to say that so once you get those 2 kills and you've got everyone rotating, obviously one of the players went down unexpectedly for like he was in a smoke.
Why was he there though?
But I mean, it's a situation where the Ts are in a really awkward spot because they can't push anything now because they don't have enough players. So you, as a CTs, you just want to wait for them, like just force them to have to try to plant, like and then eventually all the smokes will go away and it gets even harder for them. So I think there was a spot where they could have slowed the pace, but they kept the attack going.
Yeah, it looked like they were over peaking.
Yeah,
trying to force the action when it was down to VG to bring the action to them. Speaking of which, savage aggression here from Scarz now. And so far so good, 4 versus 3, but this is getting super weird. Now the A site is with the Ts, but the bomb is in the entrance to B-Apps. But they may win by elimination here because the CTs have no idea. So this has escalated quickly, to say the least. Very violent rounds of Counter-Strike we're seeing, with plenty of time on the clock. Quite a stark difference from Europe and North America, where we may see that clock run down. So that was a round?
Yeah, that's a big shame for Scarz because it's a round where, you know, if they'd won that, VG wouldn't really have had a bye in this round. So, you know, you're looking at perhaps getting onto 14 rounds and then their economy would be boosted. That was a really big swing round for VG to win because now obviously Scarz, you have the money issues, and so VG are going to get quite close to equalizing. And it's just some pistols here for Scarz. We don't know. I mean, me and James personally, we don't know too much just yet about Scarz and their potential with a round like this. But you can't imagine that it's too great. And Z8Z will start things off pretty well with an angle from the underpass stairs. The CTs were trying to push to be apartments with 3 men, and it was not successful. So after that kill, it seems as though VG are going to be starting to think about where they should finish this round. Or maybe not, they're still holding their positions. Oh, very nicely done. Another frag for Z8Z.
There's so much variance in these rounds, these buy rounds rather, that I think you have to favour VG. The Ts can withstand more than the CTs can, and also the reset loss bonus for Scarz. It's a forced buy for some of the players here. Laz is saving for an AWP.
Z8Z has literally just stood here the entire round and almost killed everyone, just over the course of over a minute of just people peeking him. Now he's finally got on board. He's just like, well, I've had enough of this now. That was very odd. 10 to 12 though. VG looking strong, and Scarz need another save. So 11 rounds in the near future, perhaps for VG. Unless catastrophe strikes. Catastrophe. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not Scarz can get themselves back in this one. I like the idea of the mid-aggression that they took on the swing rounds, but I'll have to see if they can execute something like that a bit better in the future to try to get themselves back into this one. Because I do agree, VG, you do absolutely have to favour them on paper, and in this current scenario.
I like the idea in the sense that I feel like the longer each round goes on, the more it benefits VG, because there are more decisions to take and more errors to be made. That said, Scarz can't go for an aggressive burst like that every round because, again, you saw in that 5 versus 3 on the A site that VG just waited for Scarz to peek them and try and run into the site and be standing in the open or in a weird position half in a smoke when, I don't know, I mean, I think VG just playing the waiting game because Scarz can be over-aggressive. So now we'll see if Scarz can keep VG guessing. Let's see what kind of utility they will have. Ooh, this does not look good. So again, we saw in the CIS miner, in situations like this, the CT side would prioritize rifles. Well, I think actually it doesn't matter what side they were on. They would prioritize rifles over utility. And is this going to cost? Okay, Scarz have gone for a 2-man push, so that's one way to deal with things. But can they get a rotation over towards B in time? But they don't have eyes on mid, Scarz, and it looks like we're going to see a fast round from VG. So there could be problems here for Scarz, but Laz is moving into position with the AWP in the market. Although he's moving into the site rather than playing the window. He wants to get a deep peek in, but this is a problem. Oh dear. Well, Crow, of course, doing all the damage.
Ooh, nice.
Crow will have his Linders. 2 kills for him. And that smoke execute is absolutely shut down.
It's interesting because Scarz, you know, whether they knew it or not, the way that they were positioning was really interesting. They gave up middle connector, jungle, window, A, more or less. Although they had someone at the top of the shadows ladder looking towards connector, and then someone pushing palace, and then they sort of gave up all the other space. You rarely see it ever done like that, so that's quite interesting. Anyway, deeper Molotov there from the CTs. Obviously that does, as James mentioned, stop positioning for those grenades, and the Crow looking to take the fight. So lots of action here in mid. A stark difference to the first half, where middle was desolate, abandoned, and barren. Now it is full of life.
Oh, that's a big frag from Bas. And he escapes the Molotov. 4 versus 2. And now we just need to keep an eye on what Scarz want to do. 3 players in the connector position, but they're all running to the A site. And those will be some sound cues for VG. And this is very winnable for, well, it's quite winnable for VG. I won't go as far as to say very. Because Crow and Bas are heavily tagged. Crow's been given the AWP, presumably because he's low health. I like that change. But now Scarz needs to stabilize. They've got good positioning. Bas is, sorry, no, Take J is the one just jump spotting the B bomb site. They've got 2 in CTA and then Laz in jungle. So if they can spot the information, then things can be done. 45 seconds here for VG. The bomb heading towards short, so it seems they're going to try and wrap. And, ooh, if Take J gets caught off guard in B, that might pull Laz on the rotation towards B, and he could get picked off as well. So let's keep an eye on the radar, and you see Laz starting to move, and there is the frag, so that works perfectly. But expecting the rotation, VG not committing. But as you can see, Crow already has eyes, and now there's time pressure. Now, if Take J can move up the short position, I don't think he'll get there in time to stop the bomb from going down. The players in the CTA running distraction. That's a huge frag from Crow. Can he get the right angles on the A site, though? Oh, Lovey may have just been spotted, not really sure. 2 players slowly creeping from CT. Take J coming in slow, though. He's got to get a 2 versus 1 for his teammate. He's only on 6 HP, Barca. There is Take J. Wow, that is a huge frag from him. Collect the AWP, sir. And that is another round in the bag for Scarz.
Just 2 more. Just 2 more. And if they break, or if they win this one, actually, no, the money is still pretty good for VG. If VG get the plant as well, again, you know, they'll be pretty sorted for like continued buys. But Scarz, this is a great opportunity for them. And I definitely have been enjoying the change of pace, seeing more action around middle. I think, you know, it's so fun when you see, you know, a round where, you know, maybe it goes 4v4 after, you know, both teams start to vie for control on middle, and then you get sort of these interesting mid-round spots where the CTs, now having lost a player, can't possibly cover everything, so there's going to be some openings, and then the T-side has to read where are those openings, and then you get into this like really interesting mid-round situation. So that's another thing about mid-control. You know, even if you go, let's say you're the T-side and you go down to 3 players and you only get 1 kill out of it, there's still going to be holes to exploit with those 3 players. It gets very interesting. Either way, Scarz with full utility, got that AWP. Lasval with the AWP looking from connector up to the top of middle. He's got support in Poem as well, who is by... Oh, that's beautiful. A nice shot, and that's a great start here for Scarz.
And as those flashbangs focusing on top mid where there's no smoke, rather than connector, so they kind of expected that. Shocking, how's he got into this position? Freeman will finish off the job on Bas, but the bomb is top mid, so I think they need to go for the long rotation. Everybody moving towards A on the CT side. In the meantime, Scarz clearing the top mid position. They may be wondering about lurkers, but how will they deal with this retake on the A bomb site? They've got a man advantage. Can they keep it that way? Everything's slowing down. You saw the smoke towards jungle earlier. There are no smokes left for VG. So they're probably looking for frags. They want Scarz to make a mistake, to overextend, and give them something. And you see the risk they have to take. Oh, you see something. Nice tag. Crow capitalized on a distraction. And now we've got Z8Z. What can he really do? 1 versus 4. Do you try and win this? Do you try and do damage? Do you save? 1 kill won't be enough. Scarz move to match points.
Yeah, very nice round from Lasvel. He gets 2 really key kills. The first one of which, middle, so he, weakens the split that they were trying to do. That sped things up for VG. They started to rush from pit straight. We saw Shoking make his way quickly to connector, and Shoking was unlucky actually not to get a kill. He had a couple really good engagements where he got players tagged down low, but it was not enough. And now Scarz on that 15, looking to take down VG on this map. And then we have a very fast Palace push. This is quite cool. Again, as I spoke about this earlier, taking Palace really early can be really useful, especially if the other team is playing a slow round and they think about coming back for an A split. Or even if not, you can lose one of the players on the A site, you can reposition. That Palace player creates huge retake potential if you lose the A site, so you don't have to worry about that as much.
One issue for Scarz in their current configuration, well, they've abandoned mid. Laz has an angle from CT spawn. He was looking over the smoke. He had eyes on short. But as time progresses, they have to consider potential for a boost in the window position. Now, when Shoking got to T-ramp, he jumped. I don't know if Scarz would have heard that from the Palace area, but they're not flanking just yet. But surely, as time continues, Bas might get curious onto T-ramp. So Scarz don't really have any idea as to where VG are. They know that no one is deep apps because Take J is jump peeking, but beyond that, they don't really have much information. They could be a boost into mids. Scarz are completely susceptible to that. They don't really have anyone. I'm surprised Laz hasn't rotated towards there to check for a wrap, but I suppose they are confident. Now we hear these players. Is Bas close enough? Yeah, now he definitely hears it. So he can play late retake. Laz can run distraction with the AWP from CT, and there's Poem here as well. So with the time pressure, they're probably not going to check this. And that is, it should have been 2 frags there. CT is still open now. Bas is slowly creeping up. 10 seconds to plant the bomb, Bas. Time for you to stop the plant. He's still looking behind him, but to everybody on the site doing all the damage. And we are 1 frag away from camp high for Scarz here in the first game of the Asian Minor. Congratulations to them, putting Japan on the map. Scarz take Mirage 16-11 over VG Gaming.
Yeah, it's a best of 1. Not taking anything away from Scarz, but this is a very promising start to the day, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else they have in store for us. Definitely a different style of Counter-Strike so far, that is for sure.
Yeah, that was interesting. I think it's almost like, I don't know if their plan was we're an underdog against them, let's not allow them to play their game on VG's T side and just have that aggression. They're always pushing somewhere, be it mid or be it T. I think for the teams who may be playing them in the future, that's something to look out for on their T side. Play a slow T side like a default and just see, like if that aggression is going to be consistent on their CT side, then that can be exploited. So they'll need to change the pace and take their foot off the pedal sometimes, but it might be, just against that team, we don't know. We'll have to wait to see as this minor progresses.
That's what I wanted to see VG doing, because it was a good way to counter the style of just not emphasizing map control. Just take away something. They're not taking it. Go grab it, and definitely benefited Scarz. So right, I guess we'll take a quick break, and we will be back. Are we taking a break? We're doing that.
Production didn't say break to you, did they? You just decided it was going to be a break.
Yeah, I want the power to do that.
It's definitely not a good idea if you have the power there.
I want the power.
I don't think Dan should be in control of anything.
Well, in that case, I guess
apart from his bowel movements.
I can keep talking about that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that rivalry is going to go, because both teams look quite similar in approach, but to me, that there's a CT side mentality was better from Scarz, which is kind of cool. But from what we understand, at least from how Blair was also setting it up on the desk, we should see that the individual power is supposed to be with VG. But we saw some great AWPing there from Laswell. He didn't really miss a shot. He was actually just super on point, and obviously Crow, another standout as well for them. So
yeah, Crow was huge. There won't be a post-match interview because these guys don't speak English. So I only know how to ask for directions in Japanese, but that's about it. So that's not going to be very useful. Over to the desk for more thoughts on that match.
Yes, indeed, we are back here on the desk. Actually, Sponge speaks fluent Japanese, so take it away.
What do I know?
Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa. Ohayo gozaimasu. I don't know what that means. I've forgotten.
It's like hello.
Yeah, I learned a song about a frog. It's like something to do with Gegi. I don't know, but I learned something in school about a frog. Gegi.
Okay.
But look, we made a prediction. I came on in hot. I said the dark horse of the tournament, and the fact of the matter was, early stages for these guys was looking pretty nice. And aim-wise, we know that Asian CS, they love to take the duels. They definitely were doing that time and time again. If we get stuck down on the glaring mistakes, we could be here all day. Yeah. So let's just stick with the silver linings.
Let's stick with the silver lining. It's a lot more healthy to do that anyway. But definitely a very different play style than you're really going to see. No, this isn't a bad thing. I'm saying it's a very different play style than you're going to see, I guess, throughout the entirety of the planet. It's very different,
It is different, right? And one thing which I need to point out on the CD side for Scarz Absolute, they just refuse to give up mid. It's like every time VG threw in a couple of smokes, they just threw in like 4 players towards mid. They were just taking those duels. Some of those are a little ridiculous, but let's talk about the positives, right? The way they used the B bomb site was pretty cool. They knew that Z8Z was playing there. He was struggling.
Z.
That's a Z.
Or what if we call him Zates?
Zates works. So they know Zets was playing there, Zates, and they kind of abuse that side quite brutally, right? And it's not just about just rushing in every single time. They mix it up a little bit. Sometimes they send a couple of guys towards short. They timed it perfectly. But for VG Gaming, man, they really, really struggled there.
Well, look, the scoreline, I think, shows the game to be closer than what it probably actually should have been. When you look at the approach, also some T-sided rounds from Scarz, it was like you were pointing it out, the contact plays onto the A bomb site where they had all this utility and they're more than happy just to take the duels, which means they back their aim. That's a very positive thing. But if you're going to walk out like that against a Renegades, you're going to cop it. So they might need to tighten up a few things.
Well, you want to talk about contact plays, and that's essentially we saw it the entire match, and actually Sponge was able to contact production, and we did get a little bit of a round pull here for them.
We dialed in. Now, this was, Blair just touched on it, the exploitation of Z8Z over towards that B bomb site. Now, it forced a rotation to come in early a lot of the times from VG Gaming and stack that bomb site. So as you can see right here, they're going to cheat a player over very early, and in previous rounds, they were actually playing 3 players towards this B bomb site. Now, this is the stand-in right here. You can tell that he's the coach. You can tell that he's not made for this. He should have hit that shot any day of the week. And at this point, they snowball onto the bomb site. The rotation's already there. You can see 2 more players in the site. They both go down with ease, and everybody's trigger happy to get over and help out this B bomb site. Now, how this plays into the entirety of that first half is when you know you have to lean towards that site, you're going to have less defense over towards A, and you saw that come in where they were playing retake, they were playing 1 towards window/connector, 1 towards CT spawn, and then it was 2 towards the B bomb site and 1 on cat. So they had to hedge, they had to cheat over there. And then what happens is, as soon as they start out playing you, as soon as they're 1 step ahead of the mental game, and then they mix it up, and then, okay, well, now we're just going to go to A. We know that bomb site's weak, or now we're going to fake it. It's very difficult to keep up with that when you know you have such a glaring hole. And if you can't stop that, if you can't scare them away from that bomb site, if Z8Z can't stand up and put in a good performance, he's going to be exploited tournament in, tournament out. And that's a big problem right now for Vici going forward.
That's a big hole in the defense there on that
Damn
side.
Straight.
And it wasn't necessarily a rough showing. I think I'm more mesmerized by the fact of the lack of utility used by either side on their T sides.
Just shoot people in the heads. That's how
Counter-Strike
works.
No, here's the thing, though. Like, at least if you look at the T side from Scarz, Scarz Absolute, they actually did have a little bit of utility usage. But like you pointed out earlier, that A bomb side take, I think they hit the A bombs like 4 times.
Did a double pump as well.
Yeah, a couple of. I think it was the last round, right? Apart from that, the first three rounds, they just went in for contact plays. They went in. They had the smokes. They had the molotovs. They had flashbangs. They tossed in 1 molotov to a CD spawn and took the duels. The good thing being they won those duels.
Yep.
But do you really want to approach it that way?
Look, if it works, it works, and they won the game. I think maybe there's if we go to look towards mistakes in terms of play style. or at least the micro side of things, is like when they had the 3v1 situation with Lovey and he had the bomb down in B apartments and the smoke was up. I think there was about 18 seconds left on the clock. Now, they could have maybe waited a couple more seconds before jumping through that smoke, or tried to approach it several different ways, have one player spam the smoke to see if Lovey's there, see if he draws at anything. They just had 3 guys jump through a smoke in a tight corridor, and that's where one of the really big rounds in that first half came for Vici. So if they can tighten up these little issues as they go forward, and most likely they're going to play against Renegades, and Les Boot have had some amazing flight where they, run an IV drip, and I don't know what's going on
They
there.
look pretty pumped up, though. I just saw them right now.
Yeah, they were fired up, but that's the post-playing adrenaline. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever landed in a country after flying from that part of the world.
I have.
But you're pretty hyped up. You're not feeling tired. You're feeling ready.
Like Dallas,
Yeehaw.
for example. No yeehaw is necessary in this part of the world, but one thing that will be necessary is that we take a look at these brackets so that if you are joining us, it does make just a little bit more sense in exactly what we're talking about here. Scarz has won the opening match here, taking out VG.Flash on Mirage. You just missed it if you're just tuning in. But now we will be moving on to Renegades and Boot. I think Renegades, obviously, even without the sort of parameters of this matchup where Boot are, on the travel, that whole situation, I think Renegades are the favorites to win no matter what.
The whole tournament, they have to be the #1 favorite, right? They're the highest rated team in the world out of everybody we have here. But going throughout this, we're going to finish the entire Group A today, right? So that's the problem, or the biggest issue for Boot, is if it was just one match and they had a chance to sleep and then play again tomorrow, cool. But they need to make sure that they're on some form of a decent game going through in this tournament. And the fact that Vici have been knocked down to the lower bracket early, that's a tougher opponent, I think, mentally for them to go up against as opposed to a Scarz. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting one.
It's going to be an interesting one, to say the least. We're going to be going to a quick break before we jump into this next best of one. It's going to be Renegades versus Dream Bootscape. And, well,
I like how you
Dream Bootscape. All right.
All right, you know what? Fine. Forget it. We're going to go to a break. We come back. We will have it all figured out here.